Hello and welcome back, and congratulations, Rachel Agnes. That was quite the smashing you just delivered.
Well, I think it's a little bit misleading because I think that's a really bad matchup for me. I think I got a little lucky. I think he probably got a little unlucky, especially that last game. I think he just got a little bit unlucky in the way it kind of played out.
Yeah, I mean, you were saying when you first got on the call that, you kept a hand, which was basically a bunch of lands and a couple of plows.
Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, my plows are like one of my best cards against him. And I was like, well, those hands are actually better against that deck than they are against almost any other deck in Vintage, because you just, if you can survive, which the plows help you to, the lands make it so that like you're guaranteed to be able to cast like whatever you draw, despite whatever sphere effects he has. Now I did have to dodge. Like there was a few times where I was like, if he has Thought Not Seer, like but it worked out. I think he chose like an amazing deck for this meta, and I just think maybe he just got a little bit unlucky.
I agree that he made a good call for the meta. I do think that one of the things you're signing up for when you play Eldrazi, though, is sometimes you flood, right? I mean, sometimes it's just there's only like a dozen threats in the deck, and if your opponent draws 2-3 Swords to Plowshares, you just wind up with a couple of Thorns and a bunch of land in play.
It's true. That's why I don't personally ever play those decks like Shops, because when you sign up to not play blue, like you sign up to not have any filter, to kind of just like get what comes your way. So that can be great, and that could be like you can see what happened where it was just like you kind of get what happened to you.
Yeah, but you're basically playing with the top 10 cards of your library, and you're just like, all right, well, let's see what these do.
Right.
And I will say, I think it's a nice insight on your part, though, to look at what's kind of a mediocre hand with a bunch of land and a couple of plows, but to recognize it is actually good in that matchup. I think that hand might be actively good, even though it looks bad.
It looked really bad. You look at that and you're just, I don't want to keep this, but I think I have to. I originally was actually planning on playing Dredge, which I tweeted you about. I was playing it in paper. I was testing it in paper, and I was like, you know what? I don't think anyone is going to pack hate for a Dredge. I don't think Mentor is going to be like the #1 popping block, and that's it, right? And then I go like test it on Moto right before, and I had done all the paper testing, and suddenly Undiscovered Paradise was like bugged, and I was like, what can I do now?
Yeah, so there is a bug on Magic Online with Dredge right now, where if you tap an Undiscovered Paradise for mana, it just doesn't return to your hand. Which should make the card really good, but in fact, since it only shows up in Dredge decks, it makes it bad, because like you want to pick it up because you want the landfall to trigger your Bloodghast. It's the whole reason it's in the deck. It's actually that's part of the reason why, if you look at Vintage lists from like daily events or Power 9s, the Dredge players have actually migrated over toward Pitch Dredge instead of Bloodghast Dredge, because the Bloodghast just isn't as good when your Undiscovered Paradise doesn't work right. Hopefully that bug gets fixed soon, but yeah, it meant you didn't get to play the Dredge deck you wanted to.
I was trying very hard not to be the bad person and play Mentor again, but I also was testing out like a bug deck, similar kind of to Andy's, different, but had some Leovold and stuff like that in it. And what would happen with that deck is kind of what happened to Andy, where you have like the most insane cards in your hand. You're like, there's no possible way I can lose. And then you lose. You just lose to Mentor.
Which is basically what happened to Andy.
Right. You look back and you're just, what happened? I had in that case, he had Painful Truce. He had such insane cards, and somehow it just, in the end, like everything happened and the flurry of spells, and in the end, Mentor always comes out on top. So I couldn't really justify not playing the Mentor deck.
Fair enough. You're allowed to play to win. That doesn't make you the bad guy.
That's true.
All right.
I think most people think Mentor is, but
yeah, I think Mentor is probably the best deck. I don't know that it's not a blowout though. I mean, there are plenty of. It's not like it's a one deck metagame in my mind. I feel like there's a good 3, 4, maybe even 5 decks in tier 1.
Which we're lucky enough to see one of the decks that I think is going to be phenomenal. We get to see Reid Duke play his Storm deck.
So you like the Paradoxical Outcome Storm?
I think that deck is insane.
I am also a fan.
I'm not good enough to play that deck, but I think that deck is the real deal. I really do.
Yeah, it did not look good for Reid in his first round, but I want to watch him play it again. I mean, I think he's got a good shot at getting to next week, and it's the kind of deck that could absolutely run the table if he gets some decent draws.
I think so. I shoved my board full of Storm Hate because I thought that Kevin would probably play Mentor or some type of blue deck, and I thought Menendian would probably play Storm. And I thought Reid might play Storm, and I I just shoved it full of Storm Hate. So hopefully that pays off for me in the long run.
Yeah, I'm looking at Kevin's list because that's the matchup is Kevin against Reid.
Mm-hmm.
He's got 4 missteps and a Flusterstorm main, so that's a little more than you would want against a workshop deck, but not ridiculous. His 3 plows are going to be terrible in the matchup, obviously. That's just the price you got to pay for not getting to sideboard. 3 Mystic Remora could be very good at letting him draw into Force of Wills.
One of the things that I noticed looking at his deck list was what was not there. I didn't see any Stony Silence, if I'm mistaken. I didn't see any of
no, you're right.
No Rod, and that's gonna really hurt because that's what made the last game with Reid so horrible was basically the Stony Silence and things like that. Without that, I don't know. He kind of gets to run a little bit free.
So what Kevin has, he's got a second Flusterstorm in the board. He's got 2 Mind Break traps in the board, plus the Remoras can, in theory, draw him into those as Reid kind of combos off.
Right.
The other thing, and this is a pet card for Kevin, he was talking about it a little bit when we had him in the booth, 3 copies of Meddling Mage.
Yeah, I was shocked when I saw that. Menendian had said in commentary that he wasn't shocked because he knew he loved it, but I saw that and I was, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, this Reid Storm deck does not have a lot of answers. He can bring in a Toxic Deluge, in theory. He's got the chain in the main. I think he's got 2 chains in the main, which can obviously short-term bounce it. But yeah, I mean...
Toxic Deluge anyways, but the idea of bringing it in just for Meddling Mage feels pretty bad.
Right, and that's why, when you run a creature as your hate card, it does put the opponent in an awkward spot. That'll be interesting to see how Reid plays that. I think it should be a good match. I do know that if you told Reid he's going to play a never-ending string of Mentor opponents, he would absolutely run Paradoxical Outcome Storm all day. He believes the Mentor matchup is in his favor. He's happy to be faced with Mentor decks.
On my side, when I log on to Moto and I play when I'm playing Mentor and my opponent is playing Paradoxical, I always lose, so I agree with that.
Yeah. All right, sounds like our players are ready. Let's get down to the match. Hello and welcome. Last round of the night. One of these players is going to be eliminated. One of them is coming back next week to play for the spot in VSL. We've seen Reid with his Paradoxical Storm deck once. He's got a hand with, some mana, some cantrips. I suspect he'll keep it. Kevin with his Remora Mentor deck has a hand with, some land, some cantrips, and a keeper.
Yeah.
This could go a couple turns and play out in a couple of different ways.
Yeah, this is one of the starts where you're not exactly sure how this is going to play out. Depending on what they draw, things could go crazy in either direction.
Looks like Kevin is on the play, which feels pretty important here.
Yeah.
And both players with Gitaxian Probe too, there's no reason for either to counter it, so they're going to have perfect information.
Yes.
Which, look, no offense to Kevin, but that's got to be edged to Reid Duke, right?
I think so. I think an Edge Storm deck.
Yeah, it's Edge Storm in general. If we all play with our hands face up, I think the Storm deck, knowing what it needs to navigate around, is just a big edge. And
I agree.
Reid's always made really good use of that information.
I just want to take a moment while Kevin's deciding on exactly what he's going to do and just say how sad it is that one of these players is going to be eliminated. It makes me so depressed. They're both so great.
Yeah, I mean the whole play-in tournament has just been superstars all the way around.
Yes, although I will say I think if there's one superstar that has to be named, it would be Jace Vryn's Prodigy. That card has been absolutely ridiculous.
It has been having the best tournament I've seen it have. That's fair.
I think so. Okay, so we're going to start off with the brainstorm from Kevin. Reid, as you would expect, has the ability to make a lot of mana.
Yeah, he's just kind of curious. Okay, wow, now he's really got a lot of mana. He's going to probe, and he's going to see 2 missteps, which is kind of bad news because Reid really wants to resolve that preordain, and I don't think he's going to get to. Wow, Kevin's not going to give him the information about his hand. Kevin found a second misstep off of that brainstorm and decides, I'm countering Git probe. I like it. I think that's actually a smart play.
He said, don't play me. Don't test me. I think that if I was in Kevin's seat, I would be pretty quick to throw mental missteps in that case, because like we were talking about, Storm can do so much more with knowledge.
I would only do it if I had 2, but he did find the second one. Yeah. So now, Reid's got his follow-up, preordain or ancestral or whatever. You get that too. Yeah,
makes it a little bit easier to make that decision.
All right, so now Reid's got a handful of mana. He just needs to draw any of the draw 7s at this point. And Kevin is just going to, gush and cross his fingers?
Ugh. I don't know. I think he drew a Gate Probe, so we'll see what he draws off of it. The good thing for Reid in this situation is that he's not really under a lot of pressure. So True. It's not like if he doesn't draw it next turn, it's over.
It's crazy. He could actually just baby Tendrils him out. If he randomly drew Tendrils of Agony, Kevin's about to pay 2 more life, right?
That's true.
Kevin's 11. All the misstep, probe. Now here's a 3rd probe that would drop Kevin to 9. That's Reid's hand is lethal. I think
everyone says Phyrexian mana is too good.
Kevin actually declines that probe. He's already got the information. But yeah, Reid's hand is randomly almost lethal.
I think the thing with that probe is he doesn't want to gush. It seems pretty bad.
Yep.
And what can he draw into that he's going to play that turn? That would be phenomenal. There are a few things, but I think he'd probably value his life total a little bit more there.
Yeah, you see Kevin's now going to start paying blue mana for these probes.
Yes, which he drew another of.
I like his decision not to gush as well. I think building up mana does make sense here, trying to get Snapcaster turned on.
It's just... It's never a good feeling, and it usually doesn't lead to you winning the game. I will say I've cast a lot of just gush completely by themselves, and I usually end up losing those games. It's kind of I feel as though Kevin is on the seat that he needs to get something kind of started, because his turn he's gonna take a lot more time to kill Reid than Reid will. Reid's he could very easily just go off 1 turn, that's it. So I think he's kind of in the seat to find something right now, even though we're kind of have a match that's up in the air right now.
I guess Kevin paid for the 1 Gitaxian probe. I think he's leaving 2 mana up so that it can, in theory, Snapcaster a misstep. It's basically his only defense right now.
Yeah.
And Reid just needs to draw a threat.
Yeah. Little does he know, Reid has nothing he's going to want to misstep.
Well, he does know.
Oh, yeah, he does, yeah.
Optics.
Another gush. Now we're starting to get in that territory where you're really looking at casting them.
I mean, he's 1 more mana from hard casting it.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, he can't, if he floats and gushes, he'll still have snap on the misstep. All right, this seems... it's not an unreasonable play, but Swords to Plowshares is not what he wanted to draw, and Mana Crypt is not great.
No.
Plays the Mana Crypt, so he's going to Snapcaster the Brainstorm here? Okay, Snapcaster Brainstorm.
Yeah, that actually seems pretty good, yeah.
Yeah. Brainstorming with the fetch line. Okay, I like this line makes a lot more sense. I'm just nervous about the Mana Crypt. That's a 4-turn clock, potentially.
We did see his Mana Crypt come back against matches. Now this is good. Now this is what we want to see.
Whose side are you on?
Ooh.
You're on the mentor side. You are on Team Evil. I see how it is.
Oh man. I'm on both sides, to be honest.
Okay.
I'm on both sides. So when we get to Reid's turn, then I'm like, this is what we want to see, or this is what we don't want to see.
All right. I'll allow it. All right, mentor. Now Kevin's willing to pay life.
Now that probe that he's been holding on to is looking real good.
Yep. He can gush again. Reid might be down to his last draw step. I think he probably is down to his last draw step.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a Mox Pearl. Maybe he can survive another turn if he chains. Yeah, he probably gets another turn but he's gonna have to bounce a Mentor.
Remember when I was saying you never want to just gush? Like it feels bad to just gush with nothing and just try to find something. That's the same thing with Chain of Vapor. You never just want to Chain of Vapor to stay alive for one more turn.
Oh wow, he's gonna do it main phase before Kevin gets to untap. Probably
a good decision.
Also, because it's main phase, Kevin can't really just make a bunch of Mentor tokens because he doesn't want to. He doesn't know if Steve's about to go off.
Right.
I mean, he knows Steve didn't have anything when he probed him, but that Mox Pearl could be anything. All right. Upkeep, yeah. I think this is the right timing for Reid. He's going to bounce the Mentor on Upkeep, which should keep him alive for, I think it's only one turn. But it's better than 0 turns, that's for sure.
Yes. If anyone can get out of this situation, I would say it's Reid Duke. And I will say, for people who don't normally or haven't seen a lot of Paradoxical Storm, it usually does not look this bad. It doesn't usually play out like this.
It's going to look fine if you top decks an outcome next turn.
That's true.
Ooh, Mystic Remora. Interesting.
Not sure it's really going to affect what's going to happen this specific game.
The Remora? I mean, I think Kevin's going to play it this turn.
Right, yes. Yeah, definitely.
Oh, he plays Divining Top before Mentor. That's a little surprising to me. Like, I think Kevin just needs to win this game as quickly as possible. Oh, he's looking for defense. He just really wants to spend his mana activating a Divining Top. Huh.
I would have jammed the Mentor there personally, but then I also do tend to usually just jam it. They have it, I guess.
Yeah, look, it's hard to argue. It's such a good card. Yeah. I mean, this may give Reid another turn is the problem. Now, it is a turn where Kevin's going to have Mystic Remora, but he could have gone Mentor Remora, right, and been set up to almost certainly win the game next turn.
Right.
I don't know that he can win the game next turn with just one Monk and a Snapcaster. So Kevin's playing to try to keep control of the game for 2 turns. And Reid's just like, how about you flip for Mana Crypt and pay some upkeep? And
that is the only scary thing is you're kind of leaving it in the hands to your own Mana Crypt in that sense if you're going to try to play like a really long, not super long, but a more protracted game.
Right. 2 turns is fine, but the 3rd turn starts to be sketchy. Okay, Kevin's won 2 flips in a row, so Mana Crypt is
now great. Like, Now we know that the decision was wonderful because he was going to never miss his Mana Crypt flip.
Oh, that's what makes the decision right or wrong is how the flips turned out?
Yep. It looks like now...
This is
if the game is going to go longer, it's not going to, but he does have that nice little like Mentor top shenanigans.
Sure. This has to just be Mentor Gush, right? I mean, I guess Kevin knows the top card of his library, so he might be debating Flooded Strand. I feel like you just go Mentor Gush. Reshuffling first if you don't like the top card.
As I begin to watch the VSL, I've realized that Kevin is a little bit like, he's methodical. He thinks through a lot of plays, which is good, which is a very good thing. Rather than just jammed Master J, if you will.
We're going to have a lot of new nicknames for Jace by the time this is done, aren't we?
Yes.
I like Jam Master J.
I think here, if I'm Kevin, I guess I'm just looking for... I would be just looking for cards to, like, cheap it interaction. That's what
I mean, I feel like he's doing everything he can to find a Force of Will, because he kind of knows Reid is trying to top deck that one business spell. But he's given Reid I feel like Reid is also a +1 draw step because of the way Kevin's played it. That said, this dig is... If he digs into Force of Will here, we're basically done.
Mm-hmm.
Mind's Desire is about the only card Paradoxical Storm could use to get out of that, but Reid actually does not play a Mind's Desire.
Ooh.
Yeah, no, it's some people like it, some people don't. Reid is not on Mind's Desire. This is exactly the hand where it's good. It's Mind's Desire is the kind of card. It's only good if you have the hand of 5 Moxes against a controlled deck and you need to top deck something. This is basically the only scenario where it's good. So I totally get why he doesn't play it, but he's currently in a situation where it's good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the one situation where it's great.
The worst way that you want to build your deck is wait until the moment that doesn't come up that often and decide what would be the best card for this specific situation. Wow. So he's probably right. Plus, I would never question Reid. I'm sure he would.
He drew actual nothing that game. 46 cards left in his library by the end. So he drew 7 cards, and none of them said draw a card on it. Right? Every single one of them was artifact mana or land. That was a really awful sequence of draw steps for Reid there. I mean, Kevin still had a little bit of defense. And the thing is, if Reid goes off while Mystic Remora is in play, Kevin is going to be drawing so many cards that, he can draw into Force of Wills to stop him. So, I mean, I'm not saying I like Reid's chances if he drew a business spell. But yeah, to draw 0 business spells in 7 draw steps is pretty bad.
It's unlucky. It's unlucky. This deck usually looks a lot more streamlined, a lot more explosive. But it's also prone to, it's possible that it can do that. You have to keep those type of hands that just have a bunch of mana accelerants and he did, a bunch of mana accelerants. You have to keep those hands. So it can happen. It's unlikely though, with all the things that you could hit and all the things that you could draw. It's a little bit more unlucky than anything.
I agree with all of that. Yeah, you see the Meddling Mage is coming in for Kevin Cron.
Yep.
Reid is going with no Jar, no Tinker, and he's trimmed a little bit of artifact mana. I know he likes to do that. He does have the ability to turn into a Mentor deck after sideboarding, but that's not for this matchup. I think he wants to be a combo deck against Storm. I suspect it's against Workshop style decks where he wants to transform into a Mentor.
Yeah, I can see that.
Deluge in the sideboard, so he's relying on his chains. And he just is not going to have an answer to a Mentor that gets out of control other than I win. Which is a pretty good answer, to be fair.
I mean, I think that's what you have to play. If you're playing this Storm deck, you have to think that that's the possibility that you're going with, or you wouldn't choose to sleeve it up.
Wow, so Reid's hand does not have much fast mana, but I think you keep it on the strength of 2 Gitaxian Probes and an Opal. If he can get to 4 to cast Paradoxical Outcome, he's in pretty good shape. Kevin, meanwhile, 2 Meddling Mages. Note, Meddling Mage is a blue card, so it's basically a Force of Will and a Meddling Mage.
Yeah, which is pretty good. I really like Kevin's hand, actually. The Opal looks so bad now. Last game it was on immediately, and now it's just sitting in your hand you better draw something that you trimmed. I'm going to start with the Get Probe.
Okay, Petal. We're getting somewhere.
This is. It's hard.
Just need Mana Crypt off this Gitaxian Probe, and it's all good.
That's true.
Is that too much to ask? Soul Ring's not even good enough. It basically has to be Mana Crypt if he wants to keep going. I mean, whatever. He can also set up. He's got turn 2 potential.
Yeah. Get Probe hands are always, which is a reason why, I personally hate playing Storm. When you have a hand with a bunch of Get Probes, which are great cards in your deck, you don't really know what your hand is going to be.
Yeah, you're right. It makes mulligan decisions super hard. All right, well, Mox Pearl gives him some action. He can, in theory, go Pearl, Opal, Petal, sack the Petal, and outcome for 2. I suspect, let's see, he resolved Gitaxian Probe, so he knows what he's up against. I got to think that makes sacrificing Lotus Petal a bad idea. He probably has to wait for turn 2, which means he kind of has to hope Kevin doesn't name Paradoxical Outcome with Meddling Mage.
Ooh, well, that's not a good hope.
I mean, I think, what is Kevin supposed to name? I think Kevin's supposed to name Tendrils. Maybe Chain of Vapor if he's going to play 2. All right, no, it looks like Reid's going to go for it.
If I was in Kevin's spot, I would snap name paradoxical outcome.
All right. Well, Reid's going to go ahead and cast the paradoxical outcome.
Which is why I think it's bad, but it's also, I think, the best play that he can make. Because I think Kevin will.
This is only an outcome for 2. Kevin could let this resolve. This is like Force of Willing a Gush. I mean, I guess it makes more mana than Gush, except the Opal's been turned off.
Yes.
So the Opal's... This is an interesting spot. Yeah, and of course, Kevin does not know Reid's hand. Reid knows Kevin's hand. Kevin does not know Reid's. Huh, I would have said no there.
And you see Reid paradoxical outcome in here, you have to know his hand's anemic. He only has 2 cards left. You can kind of like take a little bit of a guess, but I still think forcing is great there. You just turn off any potential of anything happening.
Yep, Kevin did go for the Force of Will. Now he gets to untap. Well, sorry, untap. Now he gets to take his first turn. And presumably sack Lotus to spin the top and play a Meddling Mage.
Yeah. And we get to see what he names, which is exciting.
Yeah, that's a fair question. I mean, Kevin's thought a lot about Meddling Mage. I feel like whatever the right answer is, he's got it worked out in his head.
Let's see. The moment of truth is.
We got to spin the top first. We're not to the exciting part yet. I guess the interesting part is that he chose to crack his fetch land before spinning the top rather than after. He finds a good card. He wants the ability to flip top for the good card while then redrawing the top. Force of Will, Mystic Remora, Ponder. Huh. So he could hold Meddling Mage in his hand as the blue card for Force of Will. He could also flip the top and play Remora instead of Meddling Mage. He cannot do both of these things, though.
He has a choice to make, that's for sure.
Yeah. Huh.
I know Kevin is really well versed in Vintage, and this is one of the choices that you pick up just from playing a lot. So I know he's probably played Paradoxical Storm a ton. So I think he's probably one of the best people to make this decision.
He's still in
this
the
is one
tank,
of those things that you gotta.
I mean, I agree with everything you're saying, but I don't think this is not a scenario you find yourself in a lot. This is more
That's true.
Like, do I flip my top for Remora, or do I leave myself the ability to flip top for Force of Will, exiling Meddling Mage, or do I just play Meddling Mage?
What would you do? Put you on the spot. I put you on the spot.
I think I would play Meddling Mage.
I think I would play Meddling Mage as well.
I would stack Force of Will so that I get to draw it next turn and have the ability to top into a blue card. And I would cast Meddling Mage. Your idea of naming Paradoxical Outcome makes sense to me after sideboarding. The thing is, I mean, game 1, I think you can name Tendrils of Agony because it's usually the only card capable of killing. Wow, he decides to flip top for Remora instead of playing Meddling Mage.
That was the one. That was like the one we didn't think.
I mean, I get it. The problem is the card has cumulative upkeep. Like, it doesn't hang out forever, and paying the cumulative upkeep means he still can't play the Meddling Mage. All he gets to do is replay the top. Or yeah, and in order to replay the top, he has to shuffle away his Force of Will. Yeah, I don't like Remora there. I think that was the wrong answer.
I just think that Meddling Mage would have had Remora is very good, but I think Meddling Mage would have had as much of an impact.
Agreed. Yeah, Reid's just gonna wait out the Remora. Kevin hasn't shown him any fast mana.
This is also one of the reasons why I wouldn't play Remora in a Mentor deck. It's good when it's good, but at the same time, you have to spend so much into it. You don't want to play it on a board where you're behind. If you play it on a board where you're ahead, does it really help you extra? If you were already going to win the match anyways, because you have to sink so much mana into it.
Yeah, I also think it's the kind of card. It's the kind of card that sometimes you can trick yourself into thinking it's better than it is because it's really good against bad players. Like Reid Duke is just not going to cast a spell and he's just going to say go 3 times. Like most people don't do that. This is, I mean, it's not that hard to find this line, which is why I think you only see Remoras every once in a while. But I mean, I do think it's the kind of card that, you know, you take it to your random local vintage tournament and the card can just destroy people. I mean, it's funny how there are cards that fit that category, but I think this is one of them.
Yeah. I don't think it's bad for Reid to kind of just hold in his hand. Like, he can just hold his hand, wait for him not to be able to pay it, and he could have had Meddling Mage.
Yeah, no, I like the way Reid's played this game a lot. I wasn't in love with the turn 1 outcome, but it did. I mean, the fact that Kevin thought it was good enough to force it, well, maybe makes Reid's play correct.
Yeah.
I was just afraid Kevin was going to say okay and still have a Force of Will and 2 Meddling Mages, and Reid draws 2 cards.
That's true.
All right, Soul Ring is going to let the fish stay around a little longer. Reid's drawing pretty well. I mean, he drew land, but he kind of wanted land. Like, he wants the ability to cast Paradoxical Outcome. They're really, I guess he no longer wants land. He wants artifacts on cue. There's Lion's Eye Diamond. He wants artifacts he can pick up with his Paradoxical Outcome. And he wants cantrips. He's got a Flusterstorm. I mean, I think Reid is going to have quite a hand when the fish finally dies.
I think so as well. His hand has shaped up really, really well, which is kind of what we were saying earlier. His original hand just had Get Probes, and he's not only drawn really well, but it's kind of revealed itself to be a pretty good hand, I think, in this situation. Kevin will have some things to say about it, though, I think.
Reid's actually thinking. The Soul Ring has given him pause. His plan of wait for the upkeep wait for Kevin to let it go. Kevin can still upkeep it. Although Kevin has to tap out to upkeep it next turn. Then Kevin can play a land. Kevin gets to spin a top. I think you stay the course.
If I'm Kevin, I would do it. I think I've gone this
Kevin or Reid?
I would just you kind of committed to the plan.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's Reid who's thinking.
Right. I'm just saying for next turn.
Yeah, no, I think Kevin should keep upkeeping it as long as he can, especially because his hand's not even very good. Yeah, I think Reid should stay the course. I still like his line. I mean, obviously, I have the benefit of being able to see that Kevin hasn't drawn into, 2 Force of Wills.
Yes. That makes it a lot easier.
God, Reid's hand does so much, though. Flusterstorm and a Demonic Tutor and an outcome. Cool game. Definitely been a cool game.
Yes, it has. It's kind of just trudged along till now, and now we're hitting like the important parts of the match. That will determine what's going to happen. I'm just glad someone played Paradoxical Storm. I've been preparing for it for the entire time, and no one played it. It's a fun deck to watch as well.
Yeah. All right. Reid has decided, nope, stay the course. Not casting anything into Mystic Remora. Kevin gets to spin the top. He's found a mentor. So whenever Kevin does decide to let the Remora go, you can start getting on the mentor plan, but I mean, unless he also finds a time walk, that's not going to be fast enough. Like, Reid's hand is gasoline.
Yeah, gasoline. Yeah, no, definitely.
Not sure if we can see what else Kevin's looking at with the top.
Yeah, I just see the mentor personally.
Oh, there's a Flusterstorm.
That's pretty good.
That is good.
And for the Remora.
A5 draws Flusterstorm, is able to leave up Tundra and Flusterstorm. Ooh, Defense Grid. That's the kind of card that Reid could think about going off Mystic Remora. At the same time, though, I'm not sure what the rush is, and his mana's, he doesn't have enough mana to make that easy to play, right? He's got 5 mana, so he cannot, for example, play Defense Grid, then follow up with a Paradoxical Outcome.
Right. He could Defense Grid to see what Kevin does, even though we don't want him to draw a card off Mystic Remora, but it kind of would help Reid understand where he's at in the match, because now it's been a few turns, you're not sure what he's been drawing. It is a little bit of a tester card.
The problem is Defense Grid, it's not like it's City of Solitude. Right? If Kevin, let's say Kevin lets the Remora go, he's got 6 mana. Right? He can pay the 3 for Defense Grid for 2 copies of Force of Will. He can play a land and then pay for a Flusterstorm and a Force of Will.
That's true.
Yeah, it's funny. Defense Grid kind of makes Reid want to go off while Kevin's tapped out for Remora in a weird way. But I feel like he's a mana short. I mean, Demonic, if he goes Defense Grid, let's say it resolves hypothetically, which we actually know. I mean, unless Kevin's floating a Force of Will, it is going to resolve. Then Reid can Demonic Tutor for Mana Crypt. He's still 1 mana short. I mean, he can Demonic Tutor for Black Lotus and then Outcome, but then the outcome's for 3. Interesting. So yeah, he is going to go ahead and go for this Defense Grid while Kevin's only got the 1 mana. Yeah, I get this. And initially I was thinking we'll just say go, but if Kevin gets to untap, Defense Grid just becomes worse.
Sure.
I just don't quite. I mean, a lot of it comes down to what. All right, so Kevin is digging with Divining Top, hoping for a Force of Will. He sees a land, a Snapcaster, and that's not going to get the job done. So Defense Grid's in play. Does Reid have a line here? I mean, he's kind of Demonic Tutor. Obviously, he could get lucky with a Gitaxian Probe. That would be the dream here for Reid. He doesn't have to get that lucky, right? Any mana source turns on Outcome. He seeds Kevin's hand. Kevin's hand, though, is irrelevant with the Defense Grid.
Does he play Will? He plays Will, right?
Oh, yeah. So if he Demonic Tutors for Yawgmoth's Will... Oh, and then he Lion's Eye Diamond, gives him a bunch of mana? Yeah, I feel like the Demonic Tutors probably creates a line. It's just the mana is super tight. I don't know if he Demonic Tutors for Yawgmoth's Will, he cannot cast it. He's 1 mana short of casting it. So he can Outcome for 3 here, right? He plays Diamond.
Right.
Picks up Opal, Pearl. He could also, I mean, in theory, he could DT for Mana Crypt and then Paradoxical Outcome for 4, but I'm not sure he wants to squander his Demonic Tutor that way. Demonic Tutor for Yawgmoth is so close, but he does not have the mana. Oh, Demonic, sorry. Sack Lion's Eye's response to Demonic Tutor does work, doesn't it? Yeah. I think he does have it. He has to discard his hand, but if he Demonic Tutors and sacrifices Lion's Eye Diamond as a response, then he's got the Yawgmoth mana.
Yeah, I thought I had counted it right, but I'm not 100% sure. This is why I don't play Storm. I have to use like both fingers. Yeah, yep. Will is really good. Yeah, Will I think is just GG. Dang. Wow. Reid. That was an insane game. Oh. Should have played Madeline Page.
Petal Diamond. It's not quite deterministic yet, right? He's got access to 4-5 mana, so he's like 1 mana short of, and the outcome doesn't actually make mana yet. It's super close, so he can't quite DT for Tendrils yet, but he's close. Goes ahead and sacks the Lion's Eye before he starts drawing cards with Gitaxian Probe.
This was a case of defense card being...
Windfall's great.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Remora. How many cards do you have? Windfall is draw 11. That's great.
Oh gosh.
All right, DT, Petal. I've lost track of how much floating mana. Is there still enough?
Can't see through the graveyard.
Yeah, so she just needs any 1 mana source. I think, has he not played a land this turn? If he hasn't played a land, then it's over. Oh, Black Lotus. No problem. That'll do.
That'll do. That'll do, pig. That'll do.
What was that you were saying about the outcome deck? Looks really good.
See? It looks amazing.
It does.
Wow, I didn't think. See, this was definitely a case of a very well-versed pilot played this deck perfectly and just knew when to go for it, when knew not to.
There you go. On to game 3.
Yes, that was definitely a case of Remora being owned by Defense Grid.
Wow, he just took Tendrils out of his deck. He is transforming into a Mentor deck. Look at this.
Oh, I think I'm behind. There.
Crazy. Yeah, Kevin's just sitting on his, his Mentors, and in comes another Fragmentize. Reid is just, nope, don't need this combo. He's still keeping all the defense grids, though, I guess. It's an interesting combination.
I mean, it's very Kevin. I don't know if Kevin's going to see this coming. I wouldn't see this coming, especially after we already played 1 boarded game.
Right.
That's why Reid's a master. That was a pretty insane game, really, like, looking back on it.
Yeah, no, the turn 1 sequencing is still super interesting to me. Like, Kevin, we saw, had 3 forks. I mean, he had a 3-way fork in the road and decided for Remora over Meddling Mage and giving himself access to Force of Will. I don't think Remora worked out. I mean, he basically drew 0 cards until Defense Grid was in play, and he couldn't use any of the cards. So, right. I mean, that fork definitely did not work out. I mean, we could argue over whether... I don't want to be results-oriented in my thinking, but I didn't like it at the time either. And then Reid with the outcome for 2, like, I don't know if Kevin is supposed to Force of Will an outcome for 2. I don't know if Reid is supposed to cast an outcome for 2. There were a bunch of just interesting judgment calls on both sides on turn 1, and then we sat around for a while, and I'm with you in that I think Reid picked a perfect spot. Like, the defense grid came off the top, and he put a plan together, and the mana was super tight, but it was... Yeah, he could get to Yogg-Will, and then he's drawing enough cards that he could get to another mana or 2 that he needed. All right. Speaking of Defense Grid and Demonic Tutor, that is after 1 mulligan for Reid. Meanwhile, Kevin has got an Ancestral and a Misstep and a Flusterstorm, and he's on the play, having lost the previous game. He's going to tap out for Soul Ring here. and cross his fingers and hopes he gets the. It's bizarre what the Storm deck does to you, but he's debating whether or not to play Soul Ring. Does he want to turn on Flusterstorm? I think you have to because he has no other mana in his hand. I think he has to go tap my Tundra for Soul Ring Divining Top, but no, I think he's really thinking about leaving up Flusterstorm instead, which is also leaving up Ancestral, to be fair.
Right.
All right. Reid says, what am I up against? Yes. Kevin says, no. This before. Do not like you having knowledge of my hand. But I insist.
No, really.
Is Kevin going to Flusterstorm this one? I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think you can Flusterstorm this one, right? He's better off spending that blue mana Ancestral.
Yeah. He's thinking, though.
Yeah, he is thinking about it. Or is Reid writing his hand down?
Okay.
All right. Reid found a Force of Will. But Reid's out of mana. He's got 2 mana, 2 mana, 2 mana, 3 mana, and a Force of Will with just a Lonely Island.
Which is very odd to see with this deck. Very, very, very odd.
Well, he does trim artifact mana in this matchup, so that Mentor is a spot that could hypothetically be artifact mana. All right, Kevin's like, fine. I'm casting this Ancestral. Interestingly enough, yeah, he waited just long enough for Reid to draw Force of Will. I think Kevin played it right, though. Like, he doesn't want to tap down. He doesn't want to take down his Flusterstorm Guard until Reid's end step, so I don't think Kevin did anything wrong there. And I think Reid's absolutely right to spend Force of Will on the Ancestral.
That's usually the right play. Like, usually if your opponent has it recall and you can counter it in some way, usually, like 9 times out of 10, that has to be the right thing to do.
Kevin ponders into a Force of Will. So his defensive shields are up. Flusterstorm, Force of Will, blue card. And Reid can't do anything, but Kevin has no offense, and Reid's going to have time to draw out of this mana screw, I think.
It's true. It's kind of similar to the first game, where Reid was sitting there waiting to draw something, and he ended up not drawing anything in game 1, so we'll see if game 3 will play out a little bit differently for him.
Yeah, I think it's better, though, when you have a bunch of threats and just need to draw mana. That's usually easier than having a bunch of mana and needing to draw threats, especially against a Force of Will deck. Oh, wow. Mentor Meddling Mage?
Oh, gosh.
Meddling Mage can't be cast right now. Like, the Tundra can't make both the blue and the white, but the Meddling Mage can come down next turn. All right, Mox Opal is not enough to generate any mana.
Is not good.
Does not tap for mana yet.
Kevin's hand is looking pretty good.
He drew the Meddling Mage instead of the Mentor. That surprises me a little bit.
That's interesting.
I guess he wanted. Oh, he wanted the dead blue card to pitch to Force of Will. I guess I'll buy that, and then he gets to draw the Mentor. Or sorry, he gets to draw the top, which he can use for prowess triggers.
And then yeah,
I'll buy it. I'll buy it. All right, but Kevin is tapped out. Now he's got 2 Force of Wills to defend himself. I don't think he's feeling super scared, but you always feel a little bit scared against this deck. Oh, the second Opal, which still does not turn on Metalcraft. Legendary artifact.
I think Reid is just really hoping to be able to cast and resolve Defense Grid this game. I think that's kind of looking at how everything is shaping up. If I was Reid, that's what I would be trying to do.
Yep. You just need, the second mana at any point.
Yeah.
Defense Grid's going to get Force of Will, but okay, that plows through a Force of Will and a blue card, and then you Demonic Tutor for something that plows through a Force of Will and a blue card, and ideally you have a Mentor first, so that this is just throwing off prowess triggers, but the fact that he's facing an enemy Mentor makes this game really hard for Reid to win. Like, he took the Tendrils out of his deck, right? He doesn't even have a Stormkill. Not that he can do much of anything with the Lonely Island.
Yeah. This is looking grim. The problem is he needs more mana, more time, and he's not going to get that with Kevin's board.
No, he's got like one draw step. He's going to take 4 down to 9. Yeah. Maybe he's going to take 5 if Kevin has to debate Divining Top versus Flusterstorm, but
that's what I think he's doing.
I don't know if Reid can get out of this at this point. He just doesn't have time.
That's what makes the Mentor deck so great, is they have all of this, permission, they have forces, they have all these ways to interact with you, and then you back that up with this just insane card that's like, do you want to fight me? That's okay, I get tokens. Even if I lose the battle, I'll have 9 tokens.
Right.
That's why it's such a formidable opponent. Every card is good in the Mentor deck.
Oh, it's a second defense grid. Man, if Reid had drawn the second mana, he could have been fighting his way through those Force of Wills with these defense grids. But this hand doesn't even cast them. Like, he's just dead. Yeah, he just dies to the Mentor and the tokens, and Reid Duke scoops him up. Kevin Cron moves on in the losers bracket, and unfortunately, that is it for Reid Duke. Reid is not going to be in the Vintage Super League this season.
That's so too bad.
Yeah, no, it's.
Oh, everyone will take a moment.
Oh, pour one out for Reid Duke. Well, it's probably good news for Team Pantheon, who probably wanted him playtesting for the Pro Tour next week instead of trying to win our LCQ. But there you go. Yeah, Reid's not going to be in it. It was fun watching him play. I love the Paradoxical Storm deck. I suspect his deck may make an appearance at some point. We'll see. So. I'd be surprised, with 12 people building decks for multiple, trimesters over the course of the season. Somebody will run that deck. He'll be there in spirit, I guess.
Yes.
Good news for Kevin Cron fans.
Yes, definitely. So we get to keep on. I know everyone loves Kevin's commentary. We get to keep hearing it, which is great.
Yeah, no, he's definitely been good at it. I mean, people who listen to his podcast probably already knew that, but Kevin does move on. He'll be he doesn't know who he's going to play yet. I don't know if we've got our brackets updated, but it might be nice to just kind of summarize what has happened and where we are. Here you see the losers bracket. Kevin is going to be waiting for the winner of Steve Menendian versus Andy Probasco. So we could get the rematch. Even more so many insane plays. We could get Kevin and Steve squaring off again in the losers bracket, depending on how Steve does against Andy. And then obviously there's a line there waiting for the loser of your match to drop down. That will either be you or Caleb. And then the winner of this losers bracket is going to be playing whoever wins next week between you and Caleb. How do you feel about that match, Rachel? Have you thought about, Sylvan Mentor versus the, a little bit more traditional Mentor?
I like Sylvan Mentor against the more traditional Mentor. It's very permanent base. It plays like I play Dax and JVPs and Big Jace. So it's very permanent base. It has the Sylvan. I love Sylvan Library in that matchup. Their life total is a little bit taxed, but I think the deck is good against traditional Mentor. That being said, it is Mentor. You can just lose to it.
Fair enough. And the Mentor deck that Caleb is running he's calling it Mentor by I can't figure out if this is an elaborate troll. It looks to me like Rich Shea's Silent Mentor deck, right? He's on the couple copies of Stony Silence that was Rich's big innovation at the last Power 9 challenge. So here you see, isn't this just Rich's list? Maybe the is short for the Atog Lord? I don't know what's going on with the naming here, but
It is definitely Richey's list. That I'm 100% sure on. Whether or not Caleb is trolling us, that I'm not sure on. I think he knows it's Richey's list. I think it's just, a joke.
I'll buy. Now, Rich was also the first guy I saw playing Sylvan Library in Mentor decks. Did you did you start from a Richey list as well?
I did.
Interesting
all
stuff.
the good Mentor, all the good tech comes from Richey. The Atog board.
Yeah, it will be the battle for Mentor supremacy between you and Caleb next week. And yeah, Richey-inspired lists on both sides. Interesting stuff. Rich, of course, in the chat, and looking forward to getting the regular season started. He will be there. I will be there. Maybe you'll be there. You're not that far away from the spot.
Yes, hopefully.
2 wins.
Hopefully. I have to. My mana base is what I need to rely on. I need to have a good mana base draw.
Yeah, well, I mean, the good news there, in a field full of Mentor, people aren't wastelanding you that much, so you may get away with your 4-color mana base. We will see. Hope you guys have enjoyed this week. Thanks for hanging out, Rachel. It's been fun casting with you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, see you again next week. See all of you out there again next week as well, I hope. Come back. We got 1 spot left to give away in the VSL. We'll do it same time, same place next Tuesday.